Hello friends, my name is Sleepjie and I would like to preface this video by stating that I am a huge fan of Cyberpunk 2077. I want to make it abundantly clear that I love CD Projekt Red's work. I have the Witcher signs tattooed on my forearm and that I was a huge believer in this game's success, and I think that what they have delivered is an incredible and immersive game that's marred only by its lack of polish. The reason I'd like to preface this video with that statement is because I'd like to be as transparent as possible with my thoughts and feelings on the game, but also because I'd like to get it out the way before anybody in the comments calls me a blind and deluded CDPR fanboy. I've been very critical of the video game industry for a long time, and I always try to be as objective and unbiased as possible when it comes to these sorts of things. The way that I rate video games is by assessing what it is that I think the developers were trying to achieve, and then evaluating how well I think they achieved that goal, whatever it might be, and then matching that up to the asking price, the price tag on the Steam page, so the Xbox Live page, whatever it might be. And I think that Cyberpunk is absolutely worth its price tag. I think CDPR set out to deliver an immersive RPG with a heavy emphasis on story and character-driven interactions, and I think that's what we got in the end. But a lot of people don't seem to agree. It's become almost a cool thing to hate this game now, purely because of the outrage behind the game's frankly unacceptable console performance. So in this video, I thought we'd take a look at the Metacritic page and just see what people really think about this game. Consider this video a review of reviews, and this isn't my normal content style, but I just figured that I had to get on my soapbox about this because this whole situation is kind of annoying me right now. The game is a complete mess full of bug and crash. Darbit. CDR need to refound everyone and take 7 more years to finish this game. I'd like to state that I was also one of the day one players. I stared at the clock until midnight when the game finally released, and I was also pretty mad when all of the crashing started. I crashed about 16 times on the opening night, and I knew it was day one. I knew all of the reviews had already warned me about the performance, and despite all of that, when it wasn't crashing or bugging out, I was having a really good time. Biggest corporate scam of video game history. 90% of promised open world features are non-existent. What features are you talking about? Cyberpunk 2077 has issues, 100%, that is not my problem. My issue is that most of these reviews that I'm seeing aren't actually listing problems with the game. They're listing deviations from the things that they expected to be in the game, which were never promised by CD Projekt Red. Please, like, if you have any features that CDPR said were going to be in the game that aren't in the game, like, tell me, like, please, because I don't remember seeing anything about car customization or house customization or anything along those lines in the game. I have played it on PS4 and PC. What a load of crap. This game sucks. Everything about it sucks so bad. And can't even imagine how they could trick people into buying this game. The game is full of bugs. Graphics look so bad on both PC and PS4. CDPR are a bunch of thieves. Are you sure about that, my friend? Are you fucking sure about that? Your game did not deserve a dime. It is utterly bad in every aspect. Worst game I have ever played. Worst game of the decade. Hell, worst game of the year is a lofty title. To call something the best game of the year or the best game of the decade is something that people typically take into a lot of consideration. You know, they weigh up all of the different options. But worst game of the year just seems like an accolade that's just thrown out like confetti nowadays. Anytime a game gets a lot of hype or a lot of popular demand, it becomes just cool to hate on it. We've allowed our industry to think that being a contrarian is somehow cool as fuck, and I absolutely hate it.
Minecraft, Fortnite, oh man, those games are just for kids, bro. I only play real games like Dwarf Fortress and Morrowind.
The worst part of this all is that I used to be exactly like that. I thought of myself as some based red pill gamer, and that I wouldn't play anything that was popular because I wasn't a sheeple. I was a based gamer and only my opinions mattered. Unless you agreed with me, then your opinions mattered too. But then I learned how games are actually made. I studied for 4 years just on how hard it is to make a game. Just how hard it is to put even the simplest of things together, and how much time and energy and sweat that you need to put into just making the simplest of things. And when I was sat toiling away at a shitty project that would have never seen the light of day on ArtStation, or would have made it in front of any sort of indie game studio, that I realized that behind all great games, and even a lot of the bad ones, are people who wake up every single day and put time and time of their lives that they're never going to get back trying to achieve something. And I'm not talking about the people who buy a bunch of assets and lazily cobble some levels together before puking it out onto the Steam marketplace. Those are the real 0s out of 10s. And I'm not saying that just because I have a degree in games design that my opinion is the be-all end-all. I'm just trying to say that I kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about, and when I look at Night City, for the most part, I can see the hard work. I open the map and I'm floored by how many side activities there are, how varied they all are, and how much that I want to do them. Not for some arbitrary sense of completionism, but just because I want to see what situations I'm going to find myself in next. Night City is drop dead fucking gorgeous. Every corner you turn is screenshot material. And it's because some poor environment team in Poland slaved away, spending some of the longest hours of their lives trying to make models and materials to make the game look as nice as it possibly could, and they succeeded. Fake bots are trying to get this score high, but everyone knows that this game sucks. Doesn't matter anymore. Are you sure you're not one of those fake bots? FFF67. Let's have a look at what other games your Metacritic says. Oh, would you look at that? He's only got one game. Oh wow, it's almost as if he's one of the fake bots he's talking about. Fallout New Vegas is a far better game in terms of graphics, story, and gameplay. Shame on you, CD Projekt Trash. Took you 8 years to make the worst game of the decade. I doubt you can even call it a game. Just plain trash. Ah yes, all hail Obsidian, base Chad gods of role-playing games. Are you all there in the head? Story, sure, that's fairly objective, but far better gameplay. Far better graphics. Ah yes, the pristine Fallout experience. I'm seriously so sick of this idea that New Vegas is somehow the peak of all CRPGs, and we should thank our lucky stars that Obsidian beat Bethesda at their own game. Think whatever you want about the game. I love New Vegas. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But if I hear one more person spout some rhetoric about how Obsidian are the greatest game development company of all time because they released an asset flip in 18 months, then I'm going to stick pencils in my eyelids and headbutt a desk. It's a great game. As I said, it's one of my favorites, but please stop comparing it to every new RPG on the market. Bethesda aren't trying to be like Obsidian. BioWare aren't trying to be like Obsidian. CD Projekt Red aren't trying to be like Obsidian. The only person who's trying to be like Obsidian is Obsidian, and guess what? They do that pretty well. GTA 4 and GTA 5 are miles ahead of this game. That's not even the question. But I played recently Watch Dogs 2014, and it's so much better open world game than Cyberpunk could ever dream to be. Final trailer of Cyberpunk 2077 promised next generation of open world games, but that's complete lie and false advertisement. If you disagree with this, then you're either tasteless fanboy or you have never played GTA 4, GTA 5, and Watch Dogs 1. Oh, Watch Dogs 1, huh? Final trailer promised next-gen gameplay, did it? Okay. Here's my short review for this next-gen masterpiece. Lies, 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 and also bugs, 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 bugs. 2 out of 10, would never play it again. I think you kind of got the review score there a bit wrong, buddy. Listen, I said in my video about the Deadlinger that forgiveness culture in the video game industry sets a super dangerous precedent that allows developers to get away with releasing half-baked games. And I still stand by that notion as a general rule of thumb. However, I also think context reigns supreme. Baldur's Gate 3 is another AAA title that was released to much fanfare from the RPG crowd, and that game was also broken as all hell. But to Larian Studios' credit, they mentioned that in the early access page. I truly believe that if CDPR just said something along the line, even just released a tweet, something along the lines of, by the way guys, this game is gonna be pretty broken, expect horrible performance, but we know how much you guys want to play it, so here you go. We'll fix it with your feedback and everything will be fine soon. Then I truly believe that they could have saved themselves so much trouble, but they didn't, and now they look terrible because of it. But in all reality, they really couldn't consider another delay. I can't imagine the pressure they felt trying to get this game into a deliverable state by December 10th, and I definitely think that this game definitely needed more time in the oven, and that this game would have hugely benefited from a 2021 release when more people had more chances to get their hands on better hardware on consoles over the Christmas period. But they didn't, and we're stuck with the game that we have now. So yes, on that front, I agree with everyone. I'm not blind, the game definitely needed more time. And I'm not making any excuses for its shitty performance, but I think there's also a clear-cut difference between excuses and reasons. And the reason that Cyberpunk 2077 runs so terribly on consoles is not only did it need more time in the oven, but it's simply not made for last-gen hardware. Same reason why Red Dead Redemption 2 barely hit 30 FPS most of the time on Xbox One and PS4. The hardware is almost 7 years old now. The hardware inside the PS4 and Xbox One is outdated now. It's as simple as that, and there's only so much that they can do to get the game running at a decent frame rate on those platforms without completely butchering the game. We only really need to take a look at Black Ops 3 to see that. I mean, in its defense, it came out in 2015, and by that point, most people, I'm willing to bet, had already moved on to the next generation of consoles. But that game also got a last generation port, and it's night and day. The previous gen version doesn't even hold a candle to the next gen version. And CDPR clearly wanted to avoid that level of butchery. So instead of making any visual compromises, they tried to get something that was as close to the PC version as they possibly could out on consoles, which are by now almost 8 years old. If you had any belief that this would somehow look and feel like a next-gen game on wildly last-generation consoles, then I'm sorry, but you had wildly unreasonable expectations. Now, stable performance and no crashing, those are default requirements, and you should 100% be mad that the game doesn't quite yet have those. And I'm not saying that there's nothing that can be done about the aging hardware problem. There's obviously some graphical concessions that they're going to have to be able to make to get the game running as smooth as it possibly can. But these reviews, these 0 out of 10s, many of which are based entirely on the performance of the game and not anything to do with its actual content, are totally unreasonable. And if you're one of these people smashing out word salads about how CDPR lied to you as a consumer and it's all just some evil corporate scam so that CDPR could steal the schmeckles out of your pocket so close to the Christmas period, then fucking grow up. You have no idea how hard it is to make a game, and your sense of entitlement for a false game that was never going to make it to your expectations is toxic and bad for the industry. Yeah, see, this is what I mean. If you genuinely feel lied to, then take a step back. This isn't Bethesda we're talking about here.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
Keanu Reeves didn't get up on stage at E3 and say, I'm just going to pick one of these planets at random like in No Man's Sky. If you pick through all of the gameplay trailers, all of the pre-release demos, everything's there. They showed character customization, they showed the driving, they showed the combat, and they showed little snippets from many quests, almost all of which I can look at and say, hey, I've seen that in the game after 60 hours of playing it. What did they lie about exactly? The console performance? The thing that they publicly claimed many times that they were pushing the game back for so that they can try and sort out because it was problematic? The only tangible differences I can see between any of the pre-release stuff and what we got in the retail version is the 2018 demo, which, surprise, surprise, isn't another Ubisoft kind of case. The game looks far better now than it did 2 years ago. And even if you disagree with that, which you're well within your right to, I mean, graphics are subjective and everything like that. It's not like you can't prefer one visual style to another. It's in the fucking name. 2018 gameplay demo. Work in progress. I have tons of bad things to say about what they did here, but for the sake of it, I will cut it super short and just talk about the performance. Sake of what? Talk about your experiences. If you're writing a review, talk about what you actually played. Don't just talk and just echo chamber the rhetoric that the game is somehow terrible because it's bad on consoles and it's not very well optimized on PC. Listen, I'm not saying that everyone has to enjoy the game. If you don't like open world sandbox RPGs, Godspeed to you, man. Go find something else to play. But to brush all of the hard work that the developers have done, to willfully look past all of the tangible hard work that CDPR has poured into this game, just because you're disappointed with the performance, is dumb. Empty, pointless waste of this that will be forgotten in a few months. I can't believe they actually took 8 years to make this Lamau. People are complaining that CDPR apparently took 8 years to develop this, as if they have any idea how tumultuous and stressful making any game for any length of time is. Do you really think that Cyberpunk's all they worked on for 8 years straight? The Witcher 3 came out in 2015, and the last expansion came out in 2016, so that already cuts the development time down in half. That's if you don't count Thronebreaker, which also came out in 2018. What, do you think those games were made by Magic or something? This is too bad the game. Why are there so many bugs? Why on 2080 Super there is no texture loading? Do not recommend. Texture loading? How could this be possible? It's supposed to be a flawless video game! In my opinion, the game is awesome. The story makes up for the glitches. Story better than The Witcher 3. 0 out of 10. I don't like third-person view missing. The game looks like an old 1999 game on PS4. It's just a bad experience because there's no option to choose how I want to see my character. I want to see the whole character like in RDR2 I could. What is the point to give him a big dick if I can't see it when I want? Have you ever played a game from 1999, bro? They never promised third-person perspective. They made it abundantly clear plenty of times that there wasn't going to be a third-person perspective in the game. I don't know what to tell you about the genitalia customization, but I honestly think that it's just so trans gamers could feel more included. Whatever the reason was, it definitely wasn't so that you could just sit and stare at virtual cock all day, that's for sure. A vast majority of these reviews, I might add, are dated anywhere between the 10th of December, which is the game's release date, and the 12th of December, which, given that they played the game for a generous estimate of 20 hours by that point, is nowhere near enough time to fully experience everything the game has to offer. My little fan theory for you here is that they played the game for maybe 10 hours before making a Metacritic account just to complain about the performance, and that's assuming that they even played the game at all. Annoying video effects, translated subtitles, skipping They translate the subtitles so that you can hear what people are speaking in other languages. How's that annoying? Driving cars is really sluggish. Where are the self-driving cars? Okay, I agree. Driving cars it's not great. Game story is all about being bossed around. Boring! I'm willing to bet money that half the people that are echoing this idea that the story's bad didn't make it out of Act 1. And that is, again, assuming that they've even played the game. Because, as I said earlier, contrarian culture is super cool. You don't even need to play a game to hate it anymore. You just watch a zero punctuation review, read what the general consensus seems to be on Reddit, and make your mind up from there. I wish I was being hyperbolic, but I have to give in to the cynic in me here. Because I genuinely think that is the case with a lot of these 0 out of 10s. 100% hype, 0% effort to make a working game. I'm gonna lose my fucking mind! Works perfectly smooth on my PC. Amazing world, amazing story, beautiful graphics. Soundtrack is beyond GTA 4 if you know what I mean. I recommend playing this game. Why'd you give it a 0 out of 10? Can't even play this on my PS4. At least Naughty Dog didn't release a broken game when The Last of Us Part 2 came out. No, they just released a broken story. Any media who's rating this game over a 7 you need to avoid. They are lying for corporate gifts and access to the industry. They are lying to you. Bro, get your fucking tinfoil hat off. Bad voiceover cast for Russian version. Trash rappers and popular bloggers instead of professional actors. I mean, I get it. I totally understand. You know, having bad voiceover for any game just kind of sucks, especially if it's in the only language that you can understand. But this guy clearly understands English. Like, there's nothing about this sentence that just screams broken English to me. English might be a second language, sure, but can you really not just switch the game language? And is it really worth giving the game a 0 out of 10 because the Russian cast is bad? It's worst game ever, not just because of bugs, but gameplay mechanic. AI, NPC, S are all worst. Reviewers got paid for sure. No, the reviewers didn't get paid. They got paid to review the game from the company that they work for, sure, but CDPR didn't give them shit. The reason that reviewers are actually giving this game a decent score is because they stuck through for longer than 6 hours to play the game and find out what's actually waiting for them on the other side of the tutorial section. Can't believe it got released like this. Unplayable, Jesus, how many words do I have to put? Well, hopefully more than that if you want to actually articulate what you mean. I didn't mean for this video to get so bitter. I guess I'm just tired of it. If you don't like Cyberpunk because you've actually played the game and you don't like what's on offer, then Godspeed, bro. And if you really have to, then write a review about what it is you experienced. Actually talk about what it was that you played. That's what reviews are for. People sharing their opinions about what it was they played, how they felt about it, what they think that the developers could have done to make it better. And not just slapping a fat Cheerio on the Metacritic page because your PS4, which you haven't cleaned the dust out of in 7 years, caught fire while trying to render a penis. I understand that people might be having a bit of a hard time playing the game right now because of all the performance issues on consoles, and to them I'd just say wait. Don't pass up on the game because it's in a bad state right now. If No Man's Sky can go from the absolute shit heap of a mess game that it was to the extremely playable and enjoyable game that it is now, then I have full confidence that CD Projekt Red will do everything that they can to make this game better. And they've already established their intentions to do exactly that. You're not making yourself out to be some red-pilled pantomath by going on Metacritic or the Steam store page or any review site really, and just talking about how better the other games that you've played are compared to Cyberpunk. Again, if you played the game, you didn't enjoy it, fine. If you don't like the performance, wait. That's all I'm saying. That's going to be it from me anyways. Regardless of whether or not this video gains traction, I really hope that I made a good point, and if I haven't, feel free to make 100 different YouTube accounts telling me so in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.